The left in this country is siding with the Venezuelan boats, criminals, drug runners. Now, I'm not saying that to get you to go, what? I can't believe he said that. I'm not saying it to be funny or sarcastic or over the top. The left in this country is siding with the bad guys that are bringing in drugs that are killing American citizens. They are against the Secretary of War. They are against the Department of War. They're against the president, who all want to stop illegal drug running into our country. They're targeting boats that they have good information on, good intel on. They're targeting these boats that are in the middle of the night, some of them 4 and 5 engines to go as fast as they possibly can, that are loaded, filled with something that has been reported by the president just today, and I'll play the soundbite in a second, as being some sort of a white substance. And they're just out fishing at 3 o'clock in the morning, in the dark of night, no lights to be seen, and they're speeding their asses towards the United States. There are some in the left in this country who have said they deserve due process. What? They're not in the United States. What due process do you want them to have off the coast of Venezuela, loaded on a boat filled with drugs and bad guys? I mean, honestly, we're going to talk to Victor about that. The president was asked about it today, and as usual, doesn't mince any words. He wants these boats done. He wants them out. He wants them gone. Now, this is sending a message twofold. First, it's going to stop that delivery of whatever the drugs were on that Venezuelan boat that got blowed up. Yes, I said blowed up on purpose. 2, it's going to be a deterrent. Before you load up the next boat, you might think to yourself, I'm getting paid a lot of money, and Victor's going to tell you how much money. I'm getting paid a lot of money, but is it worth it? Because they're out here blowing people up. Here's the president.
We lost last year. I think it was more than that, but, people don't like saying it because they always said 100,000, 115,000, numbers we've been hearing for years. So we lost last year more than 200,000 people, dead people, ruined families beyond the 200,000. And those 200,000, that family will never be the same. But these people have killed over 200,000 people, actually killed over 200,000 people last year. And those numbers are down. Those numbers are down. They're way down. And they're down because we're doing these strikes, and we're going to start doing those strikes on land, too. The land is much easier. It's much easier. And we know the routes they take. We know everything about them. We know where they live. We know where the bad ones live. And we're going to start that very soon, too.
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President.
You know what? When we start that, we're going to drive those numbers down so low. And then you're going to have families be able to live without the fear of their son or daughter just having a pill to have a little fun and ending up dying within a period of 60 seconds, right? No, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it continue to happen. What Biden did to this country by allowing all these people, and I call them animals in many cases, I think they're animals, to come into our country and destroy our country and let all those drugs pour in. Let people just walk across the border like it was nothing. You look at them, a lot of them, you say, let's not discriminate. I'm not talking about color. I'm just talking about, you look into the eyes of some of these people. We're smart. And you see a killer. Come on in. Just come on in. 11,888 murderers. Many of them committed more than one murder. He allowed them into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. But he also allowed drugs to come in at record numbers. And hundreds of thousands of people a year died. And we're taking those son of a bitches out.
Bam. Drops an SOB on you, too. President Donald Trump today in the cabinet meeting. Sam, how long was this meeting? Like 3 hours?
It was almost 3 hours.
I
mean, it was crazy.
I know.
It was great.
And just yesterday, you had some doofus so-called reporter at the New York Times say that he wasn't capable of doing the job. He had an MRI during his annual physical. He sat there for 3 hours and took questions, went around the table, talked to Hegseth, who's the Secretary of War, who actually jumps in on this one, because now they're talking about specifically taking out these boats filled to the brim with drugs in the dark of night off the coast of Venezuela.
To me, it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving.
I mean, he said that fast. The influx of drugs by sea, he says, down 90%. I mean, it's effective. But let me reiterate, the left in this country is on the side of the drug runners. They don't want the Secretary of War to take out the bad guys running speedboats north filled with drugs. Don't ever forget that.
Hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along, and a lot of the press would like to say they're not. You see the boat, they're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job, and Pete has done an amazing job. Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. We've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations.
Pete Hegseth speaking, the Secretary of War. The reason why I'm stopping is because he's been under a lot of pressure, getting a lot of heat lately because he dares be the person in charge of that department that's taking out drug-running boats in the middle of the night. A lot of pressure. Again, the left is taking the side of the drug runners. He would like to kill them and stop them from bringing the poison and killing Americans. The left wants them left alone, doesn't want these strikes to happen on these boats. They're alleging that innocent people were doing this, that, and the other on the boats, and Hegseth's just killing people willy-nilly. Somebody reported from an anonymous source the other day in the so-called media, and I think Pete's going to actually comment on this. They said that he said, kill them all, kill as many as you can. Something like that. He said he didn't say that. So that's the context. He's speaking, and he's going to also, in just giving numbers and giving some reality, he's also going to talk about the fake media.
A number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on 4-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that. A lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
The left is against what he just said. That was Secretary of War Pete Hegseth talking about taking out the bad guys. I didn't hear, before I saw that soundbite today, that we'd taken out a submarine. And what he said was possibly the line of that entire, diatribe there. Nobody's fishing on a submarine. That would be difficult to do, I would think. So we're going to have Victor Avila come up. He is now part of the law enforcement agency, the arm of the executive branch that's going after drug runners and drugs that are coming into our country. And the influx of fentanyl, where is this stuff coming from? How are they putting it together? Is it shipped from China to South America or to Mexico as fentanyl? Is it the precursors? Is it the chemicals? You're going to get into all of that. He's also going to talk about a bit of his direct experience with how they're making the cocaine, where they're growing the cocaine, how it ends up in Venezuela, why these boats are happening, when they're happening, and how they're happening. It's a very enlightening conversation. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to get into some people here from Afghanistan. And also we're going to get into what the Minneapolis mayor and the Minneapolis police chief had to say about ICE coming to town. Remember, he used to be HSI. They worked hand in hand with ICE all the time. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Who are these people that were blowing up off the coast of Venezuela? Do we know who they are?
Absolutely, narco-terrorist, which is terrorist. I mean, in this case, because they are dealing with narcotics and the poison that they continue to bring into our country. And so the interdiction model has changed. And obviously, you've noticed that it's changed dramatically. What does that mean? That the interdiction is occurring now way further away from our border. We're not going to wait for it to get to the southern border anymore, Joe. It's going to happen in another country or in open waters, in the open ocean.
Victor, as I'm watching this happen, I know we've got hundreds of thousands of people that die. I think every year it's close to 100,000, if not more than that, in this country from fentanyl. We know that this is being run from South America to North America, to us, to our shores. It's literally an invasion of poison killing American citizens. Why wouldn't we want to stop them when they leave the shores of Venezuela way before they get here? Do you understand what the argument is against that? Because I don't.
Neither do I, Joe. I tell you, it's that same argument that the left always seems to pick the wrong guy, the other side, the man, the father from Maryland, they always seem to side with the terrorist, with the bad guy, with the cartels, with the illegal. And this is about saving lives. This is about, by the way, these boats, most of them that contain cocaine. And so I know people are thinking, well, I thought we're trying to stop fentanyl. Well, the problem right now, Joe, and the number one spike in our country is fentanyl and cocaine laced with fentanyl. And that's the number one death. So now you have the casual cocaine user now risking their life as well because it might or might not be laced with deadly fentanyl.
I know that you've been studying this extensively for a long time. Explain it to a lay person, if you don't mind, who's watching or listening, Victor. How does it work? They grow the cocoa plants in Venezuela or somewhere in South America, then they process it there. Do they send it here unprocessed? What's on these boats? Is it processed, ready to go cocaine?
Processed, ready to go cocaine, and it's not being grown in Venezuela. It's being grown in Colombia. That's the number one producer of cocaine right now. As a matter of fact, record numbers, whatever you thought of in the 80s of the Escobar days in Colombia, it is way beyond that right now. So the record number of cocaine cultivation is huge. Peru is another country. So you have these South American countries producing tremendous amounts of cocaine. And like I mentioned before, now because fentanyl has been a big issue and a target by the U.S. government, the cartels are adjusting. So they're still bringing the fentanyl, but now they're trying to throw it in with the cocaine as well. The point is they continue to kill American lives. And you mentioned that the numbers are over 500,000 in the last 5 years
Oh, wow.
of deaths, not by bullets, not by a bomb, but by deadly counterfeit pills and other methods. By the way, marijuana is being laced. Kids are vaping with a bunch of this poison, and so we have to now take dramatic steps, and Trump is doing that because we're going to not only actually stop the drugs from coming in, but sending a signal to the rest of the world that it's no longer going to be tolerated. You're only going to not face consequences, possibly prosecution, but ultimately you could face death by doing what you're doing in open waters.
As you know, I grew up in South Florida. It's Victor Avila, by the way. He's the Assistant Director, ONDCP, OELA. Great new title for a great guy. It's actually Office of National Drug Control Policy, Assistant Director of External and Legislative Affairs. I know that you know that I grew up in South Florida. So when you say Pablo Escobar and the drug running times of the 80s and 90s, I thought that was the high point. You're saying it's more than that now? Why don't we treat it like it's more than that now? Because back then, we were serious about stopping drugs, and for a while, it seems like we slowed them down.
And that's a great point. And first of all, to answer your question, it's way worse than it was in the 80s. And I remember from the cocaine to the crack epidemic in the 80s, we were talking about 10,000 deaths. And you saw us and these drug campaigns and all the efforts that we did at the U.S. government back then, and it was 10,000 deaths. Yeah. And so finally, it took President Trump to say, "Listen, at 4,000 deaths." Why haven't we reacted the way we should have reacted? And it's not just the cartels. I want people to understand why Venezuela is so important here. Well, it's the alliances that Venezuela has with China, with Iran, with Hezbollah, with many other countries that also recognize the amount of money that is being made through the drug world and the drug trafficking world, so they could supplement and their terrorist activities. And so there's a lot more to a bigger picture than just Venezuela itself in the narco terrorism. Not only we know that Maduro is the one in charge of and heads the cartel de los soles, or the cartel of the sun, which is big on trafficking of narcotics to not only the United States, but to Europe. They also send a lot of drugs to Europe. Mexico wants to pretend that all of these interdictions by the U.S. government is going somewhere else. But look at where the interdictions started taking place. They were in the Caribbean Sea. Now they're on the Pacific side. It's straight to our country. And listen, we have to do everything possible, Joe, to stop the drugs and slow down these cartels, because they've been adjusting. Since the border is secure as it is, they're not stopping. They're adjusting. They're maneuvering. They're going further out at sea. They're going to go through air. They're going to go through Canada. They're going to find every single way and explore every possibility to continue to bring that poison into our country.
It's Victor Avila. The guy knows what he's talking about. Today in the cabinet meeting, President Trump said drugs coming in by sea is down 91%. I believe him. I'm sure he's got that number from somewhere. But is that because of the boats that have been attacked? Is it because of the deterrent effect? Oh, man, if we try to send drugs there to the United States, we will be blown up. Why is it down so much so fast?
It's a combination of a lot of things. One, obviously, the deterrent factor of getting blown up, but it's surprisingly the intel out there saying that these guys are getting, these drivers of these boats are getting paid $50,000 per head to do this.
Wow.
And I don't know why you would continue to do it, because now you're taking a big risk of being blown up.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's not stopping them. That's one thing. It's not stopping. It's definitely reducing them dramatically. But then when you add the border and the security at the border at the same time, you're talking about a reduction of 91% is huge. Right. So what happens? The price of cocaine goes up. And so now we're seeing pockets in the U.S. where cocaine is not as readily as available as it used to be. It costs more money. And so that's what we want. At ONDCP, we want the drugs not to be available. We want the drugs, if they're available, are very expensive, that you can't get to them. So we can also then focus on the other part, Joe, and that's the treatment and rehabilitation of the consumption, of the demand side that we have in our country as well.
Having been shot in a cartel fight and having your partner killed, Jaime Zapata, in a cartel fight, you know better than anybody, the cartels don't just go away. They adjust. What adjustments are they making, and are we tracking that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that they're adjusting is, believe it or not, they're going back to the old ways. When I started and I was a narcotic agent, they're going back to the old ways of smuggling drugs at the ports of entry, the old gas tank, in the tires, you name it. If you can think about it, the cartel is going back to trying this. They didn't have to do that big of an effort under the Biden administration because there was really nobody there checking anything.
Right.
So now they're going back to the smuggling ventures, right? But they're going out further out to sea and they're coming around the country. So Canada is one place that we're looking at, and the northern border, because definitely that's a place that's been highly exposed. So it's not that they're giving up. They are suffering because they're not making as much money anymore. The seizures are hurting them, and anything that we could do to dismantle and to disrupt the cartel world is welcome, but we have to look at the bigger picture. The cartels, remember, are the soldiers. As big and as sophisticated as they are, and the billions of dollars that they make, they're actually the soldiers at the lower level of what we're really talking about here, and it's China, Venezuela, Colombia, Iran, and the bigger countries out there that are looking to harm us.
The materials needed to make fentanyl come from China. They're not sending it in fentanyl form, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where does it go? Does Mexico get it? Do the cartels get it? How is it made into fentanyl that's killing so many Americans?
So it's the chemicals and the precursors that are coming in. One of the number one places that comes in through, Joe, is the port of Manzanillo in Mexico. Obviously, we need the cooperation of Mexico to stop
Yes.
the 50-gallon drums of liquid precursors that come in to distribute it to hundreds of super labs in Mexico, where they make not only fentanyl, but they make meth. Let's talk about meth for a second. It's probably the biggest consumption problem in the U.S. Fentanyl is killing people. Meth is highly addictive, and it leads to a lot of crime. So the cartels there's no interdiction down there, by the way, in Mexico. We need that partnership to continue to stop the precursors. But we're hearing that because we have a lot of pressure on China right now with the precursors. So guess what? They're going to other countries, Central America, India, by the way. They're going around.
Wow.
Again, the cartels are adjusting. If we can't go through Mexico, we're going to make it, and we're going to circumvent it from another country, even though it starts from China, circumvent it to a third country to finally make it into Mexico.
It's Victor Avila, Assistant Director, ONDCP, OELA. I'd be wrong to not go here. I want to switch gears very quickly, go to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah, the police chief just today came out and said, if you see somebody in a mask, they might not really be law enforcement. It might just be somebody in a mask kidnapping people off the streets. Clearly, the police chief, the top cop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is directing the people of Minneapolis to not abide by what ICE is saying. We know that about 100 federal agents are being dropped into Minneapolis to go and get bad guys that are there. Minneapolis won't help out. The state of Minnesota won't help out. What do you make of a guy like that who swore to uphold the laws, literally telling the residents of Minneapolis that if somebody tries to do this, make sure he said this, Victor, he said, call 911 if you see somebody wearing a mask, looking like a law enforcement agent, picking people up.
It really upsets me, Joe, and allow me to put on my ex-law enforcement hat here, and as a former agent. This is the way I'm talking to you now. It is ridiculous and absurd, and it angers me because they're picking on the wrong guy. It's the good guy they're picking on. Why don't you focus on the other ones that are wearing the mask, or in this case, just focus on the criminal and get your city cleaned up with all the crime and public safety issues that it has. Listen, I'm tired of hearing them saying kidnapping. I'm tired of them saying, oh, these people are not identified. They don't want to look. They're wearing patches. They're wearing jackets.
Right.
Some of them even, I never wore a uniform, but I always was identified in many different ways. They just don't want to pay attention. They want to spew this hate against law enforcement in general, but specifically ICE and Border Patrol. And we've had about enough. We're seeing the repercussions of those words actually taken into effect by not only shooting at them and killing our National Guardsmen. I'm sick and tired of the public safety issue that, by the way, it's hard to be a police officer or an agent to begin with. And this has to stop, Joe. We have to put out as much, and I appreciate you and your platform to really educate people of what a police officer and an agent actually looks like, and
Right.
why are they doing what they're doing. This is a lot for protection of themselves. I in my case, back in the day, I actually had to cover my face to protect my identity and that of my families, because the people that I was arresting were in the community. I live there too, and my
Yes.
family, and I go to church there, and my kids go to school there. This is the same thing. These ICE agents are part of the community, and the Border Patrol agents as well. I welcome them to defend themselves and to be able to protect their identities, because we know that if they don't, they're going to be doxxed and they're going to be put themselves in even more serious danger.
And the mayor of that city actually added to that, and he said, they are here to attack our Somali community, and they're going to be detaining American citizens. And he just went on and on and on about how bad ICE is. Victor, you and I are about the same age. I think I'm a little bit older. We lived through a time where we respected the police. We respected law and order. We thought that we'd be safe and protected. Our safety, our freedom, our liberties are protected by people like you. Why would a mayor of a city act as if a portion of the city is going to be under attack, even if you're here legally, even if you're an American citizen? These federal agents are only here to come and get you. Why do we have that mentality in some of these cities?
I think it's political ideology, which is very difficult to counter, because this is the way they feel. This is the way they vote. This is the part of their being, which is sometimes not aligned. At least it's not aligned with my values that I grew up from my immigrant parents, by the way. But they taught me a certain way. And when you mentioned respect for police, I was a little afraid of them, because that's how my parents taught me to respect. That respect was a fine line between respect and a little bit of fear, because I knew how to act when a uniformed police officer entered the room. I straightened up a little bit when they pulled next to me in a car. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but it showed the respect that I had for authority, which, by the way, that respect followed me to my teacher, the person behind the counter at the store, and it led to my elders, which I think we've lost a lot in our society. And so when you have elected officials like this mayor spewing this kind of hate that I think most Americans, by the way, don't abide by. I think most Americans want their kids to respect authority and their teachers and so forth and so on. So, but we have to be vocal about it. We have to continue to counter that, to not vilify, because they continue to vilify law enforcement. They're not going after them. They're going after illegals. If you're an illegal person in this country, you have an issue. You have something to worry about, because that's what we're focused on, is the breaking of the law. And as simple as that.
Let me finish with this. It's Victor Avila, Assistant Director, ONDCP, OELA. Appreciate the time. Go to victoravilaspeaks.com as his website outside of government. Let me finish with this. I had Mark Lucas on yesterday. I don't know if you know Mark, but I had him on yesterday. He's a guy, a former soldier. He actually fought in Afghanistan. And he said to me, and these words are startling, and I want your thoughts on it. He said, even those who allegedly helped us in Afghanistan, I can't trust them. In fact, people from Afghanistan are unvettable. He said that word unvettable because there is no technology there. We don't know who these people are. And in light of what happened last Wednesday with this Afghan, refugee asylum seeker shooting allegedly a couple of National Guard soldiers in Washington, D.C., killing one, Sarah Beckstrom. What are your thoughts on those who gave us some help in Afghanistan, but then were just given free rein here, about the possibility of them being not so trustworthy?
One thing I do agree with, that is very difficult. Maybe they're correct, it's impossible to do this vetting. And sometimes you can't do that vetting until the person is actually here, because we don't have the databases. Afghanistan doesn't have the databases. So even when we bring them here, Joe, we fingerprint them, we do everything that we have to do, and they come out clean, they're negative for any criminal history. We really do not know the intention behind it. And as a matter of fact, I was having this discussion with our nominee, Sarah Carter, who will be the drug czar hopefully by next week. We were actually just talking about this on our way over here, about the difference between the good ones and the bad ones. And it's very difficult, because we can't ignore that there are good ones that did help the United States, translators and such, that need that type of protection. But you have to really, you're talking about an individual case by case vetting that I I think that it at this point we have to do it. We have to conduct it, even if it takes time and resources, because we really don't know. A lot of them might have been, in this case, the guy from this attacker. We don't know where he was radicalized. Was he already before? Was it once he was here in the U.S.? All of those things have to be ironed out, but we got to go back and look at them, each and every one of them.
I'm guessing you're for the stopping of all asylum proceedings right now until we figure out who's here, how we can find out who they really are. Because I think you and I talked about this over the years, Victor. People could come across the border, could be from Northern Africa, could be from somewhere in the Middle East, could learn a few words in Spanish, pretend their name is Jose Rodriguez, and now they're in, we have no clue who they are. I mean, that's a possibility, is it not?
It happened a lot. I mean, I was down in Eagle Pass, Texas, seeing it happen.
Yeah.
And even when I worked in Mexico, I went into a immigration detention center, and I was kind of blown away when I saw people from Bangladesh, Somalia, and all these other places from all over the world in Mexico already. And I was thinking, my goodness, what are these people doing here? Well, they were using Mexico as a springboard to get into the U.S. And this was years ago, decades ago, by the way. And so, yes, Biden let them in. Well, I don't care what anybody says. They were allowed in. But now let's go back. A lot of them, we don't even know where they're at, Joe. We had to track them down. We got to find them. Some of them, believe it or not, I don't think they even want to be here. And we got to fix this legislative laws or whatever, that whether we can or cannot deport them. We have to fix that. And let's send some back that have to go back. And let's keep the ones that we have vetted and we understand what they're here for the right reasons.
Super proud of you for this new position, Victor. Thanks for making time today. I know that you ran right over to get on because you love my audience and you want to be seen and heard. Thank you so much for what you're doing, brother. Let's get together soon.
Thanks, and thanks again for having me, Joe. I always love being on your show, and I'll see you again.